few announcements. We have the May programme, I think. Could we get to bring the May programme? Andrea, il programma io tomorrow. Probably I will bring it. So there's no service this week. Tora Ferry, il programma io tomorrow, then in Akolothia Samtiti Nevada. Finali Kirieki i meta potin stepsi tu Basiliaka Rolla come sai so called paradosse cosai med sandwich cake in the Myrrhbearers pepina crisite masimetis kyries simera parcolo. So next Sunday is the day after the coronation of the new king, and so we'll have a traditional English tea with cakes and so on. It's £5. Please book with the ladies today. Serme ikidiatis macarisis shonu constantas tateleti deca tu maiusis deca chemisi. The funeral of Shonu Constantas will be on the 10th of May at 10:30. Today we celebrate the feast of the Myrrhbearers. And this feast and the three beautiful troparia we sing today take us back 2 weeks to the events we remembered on Holy Saturday and Easter Sunday. And I'm going to say a few words about the first of these troparia, which tells us about Christ's victory over death. When thou didst ascend unto death, O life immortal, then thou didst slay Hades with the lightning of thy divinity. And when thou didst also raise the dead out of the nethermost depths, all the powers in the heavens cried out, O life-giver, Christ our God, glory be to thee. This hymn speaks of what we call in English the harrowing of hell or Hades, which is just the Greek word for the place of the dead. Jesus Christ was crucified and died and descended into Hades, as all human beings do. But he alone among human beings has two natures, one human and one divine, which are inseparable from each other. And the place of the dead could not restrain the Son of God, who arose from death in both his human and divine natures. Christ in his divine nature broke the bonds of death, which had imprisoned all the human souls which had been held there. As we sang in the Troparion, thou didst slay Hades with the lightning of thy divinity. I want you to look up here to the resurrection of the Nativity, above the iconostasis. And here you can see the traditional Orthodox iconography of the resurrection. It does not simply depict the physical act of the resurrection, of Jesus coming out of the tomb, but it also depicts the spiritual reality of what his death and resurrection accomplished. So the icon shows Jesus vested in white and gold, which symbolize his divine majesty, and he is standing on the brazen gates of Hades. He is holding Adam and Eve, pulling them up out of Hades, and he is surrounded by various righteous men from the Old Testament. So on the left you can see the King Solomon and David wearing crowns, and John the Baptist with long hair. And on the right, with the shepherd's crook, is Abel, who was the first man ever to die. Next to him is the prophet Samuel, with his horn of oil from which he anointed King David. And at the bottom of the icon, you can see Hades, this chasm of darkness, with various pieces of broken locks. Not in this fresco, but in many other icons of the resurrection, in the darkness we can see a figure bound in chains, which is the devil. It's not on our icon here. Actually, the icon on my epigonatio, this is the devil bound in chains in hell. Now, if you look above Christ's head, you can see a blue shape, and this is called the mandola, and it represents the divine and uncreated light. It's the same light as the light which filled the apostles with wonder when they witnessed his transfiguration. And at the back of the church we have the iconography of the Transfiguration. You can see a full mandola on the fresco of the Transfiguration at the back of the church. This light filled the once perpetual darkness of hell when Christ descended there and brought life into the realm of death. Let's cast our minds back to the Paschal sermon of St. John Chrysostom, which was read after the first liturgy of Pascha. Hades was embittered when it encountered thee, and we all shouted out, embittered, or in Greek, epigranthi. Hades received Jesus as yet another dead mortal man, as it had received all dead mortal men since Adam's son Abel. Yet this man, Jesus, was also God, and so could not be held prisoner there as all other men had been. He broke free, and one of the hymns of Holy Saturday we sing, Hades groans and cries aloud, I accepted a mortal man as one of the dead, yet I cannot keep him prisoner, and with him I shall lose all those over whom I once ruled. And that, Christ's victory over death, is why we all shouted, embittered, or epigranthi. In today's Gospel readings, we are reminded what the angel said to the women at the tomb. Ye seek Jesus of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. Pascha, or Easter, the celebration of Christ's resurrection, is not a feast which we celebrated 2 weeks ago. We are still celebrating the central feast of the Christian calendar. Try to remember the joy we felt 2 weeks ago when we first sang Christ is risen. And when we meet friends and relatives today, we should still use the greeting, Christ is risen, Christos anesti. And we must retain in our minds and in our hearts that great joy we felt 2 weeks ago when we first sang Christ is risen. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and to those in the tomb given life.